John D. Rockefeller died in 1937. He was 97 years old. And here's the thing that almost nobody talks about. By the time he died, he had already given away over $500 million to schools, to churches, to hospitals, to universities. $500 million. Gone. And yet, his family is still worth an estimated $11 billion today, nearly 90 years after his death. How does that happen? How does a fortune not just survive one generation, but 6, 7? How does wealth like that not die? That is exactly what we're going to find out today, because the secret behind Rockefeller's wealth isn't just about oil, it isn't just about being ruthless, and it isn't just about being lucky. It's about a system, a philosophy, and a set of decisions so deliberate, so disciplined, that they are still paying dividends a century later. This is the Myriad of history, and this is the secret behind Rockefeller's wealth that won't die. By the way, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out. Now let's continue. To understand how Rockefeller built wealth that wouldn't die, you first have to understand where he started, because this was not a man born into privilege. John Davison Rockefeller was born in 1839 in a small town in upstate New York. His father, a traveling salesman, was charming, unreliable, and frequently absent. His mother, devout, strict, deeply religious, raised him on two principles that would define his entire life: work hard and give generously. From the age of 16, Rockefeller kept a personal ledger, a small notebook he called his Ledger A, where he recorded every single cent he earned and every single cent he gave away. At 16 years old, working his first job as an assistant bookkeeper, earning 50 cents a day, he was already tithing, giving 10% of everything he made to his church every single week. That habit of tracking money with obsessive precision and giving with genuine consistency never left him. Not when he was earning 50 cents a day. Not when he was earning $50 million a year. In 1863, at just 24 years old, Rockefeller entered the oil business. At the time, oil was a chaotic, unregulated, wildly unstable industry. Prices swung violently. Companies appeared and collapsed overnight. Most people in oil were gamblers. Rockefeller was not a gambler. He was a systems builder. In 1870, Rockefeller founded Standard Oil in Cleveland, Ohio, and what happened next was one of the most aggressive, methodical business expansions in American history. Standard Oil didn't just drill for oil, it controlled everything around oil: the refineries that processed it, the pipelines that moved it, the railroads that shipped it, the barrels that stored it, the retail networks that sold it. At its peak, Standard Oil controlled 90% of all oil refined in the United States. 90%. It wasn't just a company. It was an entire industry, wearing the costume of one company. And Rockefeller achieved this not through luck, but through one relentless principle: efficiency. He obsessed over waste. He would walk through his refineries and spot a single drop of solder being used more than necessary on a tin can and demand it be reduced. He calculated that saving one drop of solder per can, multiplied by millions of cans, saved the company thousands of dollars a year. That is how his mind worked. Every penny mattered. Every process could be improved. Every inefficiency was money being left on the table. By 1880, John D. Rockefeller was the richest man in America. By 1916, he became the world's first billionaire. Adjusted for inflation, his peak net worth is estimated at $340 billion in today's money. More than Mark Zuckerberg, more than Jeff Bezos, more than anyone alive today. Now here is where the story gets truly fascinating, because most people look at Rockefeller and see a ruthless monopolist, and he was, in many ways, exactly that. But there is another side to this story that almost always gets left out. From his very first paycheck at 16, Rockefeller gave away 10% of everything. Not when he was comfortable, not when he had enough. From the very first dollar, he believed deeply, sincerely, that wealth was a responsibility, that God had given him the ability to make money, and that his duty was to use it wisely and give it generously. Over the course of his lifetime, Rockefeller gave away approximately $540 million, which in today's money is roughly $8 billion. He funded the University of Chicago, one of the world's greatest academic institutions. He funded research that led to the near eradication of hookworm disease across the American South. He established the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, which became Rockefeller University and has produced 26 Nobel Prize winners. But here's the counterintuitive part. The more he gave away, the richer he became. Not because giving creates magical returns, but because the discipline it takes to give consistently, to live below your means, to treat money as a tool rather than a trophy, is the exact same discipline that builds lasting wealth. The tithe wasn't just charity, it was a mindset, and that mindset was the foundation of everything. Now, giving is one thing, but giving away $500 million and still leaving $11 billion for your descendants, that requires structure. And this is the secret that wealthy families understand and almost everyone else doesn't. Rockefeller didn't just accumulate wealth, he architected it. In 1934, he established one of the first major family offices in American history, a private financial institution dedicated entirely to managing, protecting, and growing the Rockefeller family's wealth across generations. This wasn't a bank account. This was a full operation. Investment advisors, legal teams, tax strategists, philanthropic advisors, all working together with one mission. Make sure this money outlives everyone in the room. The vehicle they used, and still use today, is called a dynasty trust. A dynasty trust is a legal structure that holds family wealth not in any individual's name, but in the trust itself. This means the wealth is protected from estate taxes when family members die. It's protected from divorce settlements. It's protected from poor individual decisions. The money doesn't belong to any one Rockefeller. It belongs to all of them, and to the Rockefellers who haven't been born yet. Most people work their whole lives to build wealth and then watch the government, or bad decisions, or unprepared children take most of it away within a generation or two. The Rockefellers built a structure specifically designed to prevent that, and it has worked across 6 generations and counting. But structure alone isn't enough, because you can put money in the most perfectly designed trust in the world, and a family with no financial education will still find a way to lose it. Rockefeller understood this better than almost anyone, so the third secret wasn't just what he did with money, it was what he taught about money. From the time his children were young, Rockefeller made them earn their allowances, not just handed to them, earned. They kept their own ledgers, just like he had kept Ledger A as a teenager. They tracked their income, their spending, and, yes, their giving. He taught them that money was not for showing off. It was not a measure of status. It was a tool, and like any tool, its value depended entirely on how skillfully you used it. He taught them the difference between an asset and a liability, between spending and investing, between wealth that lasts and wealth that disappears. And then, critically, he made sure that each generation passed those lessons on to the next. The Rockefeller family to this day holds regular family meetings, gatherings where financial education, family values, and philanthropic direction are discussed together, not just by the adults, by the children too, because the greatest inheritance you can give a child isn't money. It's the wisdom to know what to do with it. Here's something most people don't know. In 1911, the United States Supreme Court ruled that Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly and ordered it to be broken up into 34 separate companies. For most businesses, that would have been the end. For Rockefeller, it was the beginning of something even bigger, because when Standard Oil was broken up, Rockefeller owned shares in all 34 successor companies. And as those companies competed and grew independently, their combined value exploded. Standard Oil's breakup birthed companies you still know today: ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP's American operations. Rockefeller's shares in all of them made him even richer after the breakup than before, but more importantly, it forced the family into something that would protect their wealth for generations: diversification. The Rockefeller family office didn't keep the money in oil. Over the decades, it moved into real estate, banking, venture capital, healthcare, technology, and philanthropy. The family's wealth was spread across so many sectors that no single industry collapse, no recession, no market crash could wipe it out. While other great American fortunes of the 19th century have long since vanished, the Rockefeller fortune survived the Great Depression, 2 world wars, the dot-com crash, and the 2008 financial crisis. Not because they were lucky, because they were diversified and deliberate. Today, there are more than 200 Rockefeller descendants, 200 people spread across the world, living their lives, who are the direct heirs of John D. Rockefeller's fortune and philosophy, and the family is still active, still giving, still building. Rockefeller Brothers Fund, the family's main philanthropic arm, has given hundreds of millions of dollars to causes ranging from climate change to democracy to arts and culture. Rockefeller Capital Management manages billions of dollars in assets for clients around the world. The family's real estate holdings, including significant interests in Rockefeller Center in the heart of New York City, remain some of the most valuable properties on earth. And the Dynasty Trust, still running, still protecting, still compounding. What John D. Rockefeller set in motion in the 1860s with a 50-cent-a-day bookkeeping job and a small leather notebook is still running today. That is what a true wealth legacy looks like. Not a big number in a bank account, but a system, a philosophy, a set of values and structures so deeply embedded in a family's DNA that they outlive every individual member of it. So what can the rest of us, people without oil empires and dynasty trusts, actually take from this? More than you might think. First, track everything. Rockefeller started with a notebook at 16. Before you can grow wealth, you have to understand where your money actually goes, every single week. Second, give consistently, not because it creates magical returns, but because the discipline of giving, of living below your means on purpose, is the foundation of every other financial habit that matters. Third, build structure. Whether it's a will, a trust, a retirement account, or an investment plan, wealth without structure doesn't survive. It gets taxed, spent, or inherited by people who weren't prepared for it. Fourth, educate the next generation. Talk to your kids about money. Make it normal. The greatest gift you can give them isn't a check, it's a mindset. And fifth, diversify. Never let your entire future depend on one income, one investment, or one idea. The Rockefellers survived everything because they spread across everything. These aren't secrets for billionaires. They're principles for anyone who wants to build something that lasts. John D. Rockefeller started with nothing. He ended with everything, and then he gave half of it away. And still, nearly a century after his death, his family's wealth endures. Not because of oil, not because of luck, but because of discipline, structure, education, and an unshakable belief that wealth is not something you spend, it's something you steward. The money didn't survive because it was hidden away. It survived because it was built on something deeper than money. That's the secret that won't die. If this video made you think differently about wealth, hit that like button and subscribe to Myriad of History. Every week we tell stories like this, forgotten, fascinating, and more relevant than you'd expect. Drop a comment below. What billionaire, dynasty, or wealth secret do you want me to uncover next? I'll see you in the next one.